Silence. Complete silence. You want to know, huh? Asked Susuke finally, breaking the eerie silence by replacing it with his voice. You want to know what this was all about? Chiro was an idiot. He'd do anything for a bit of attention, anything at all. He couldn't program worth their shit either. The only thing he could do, however, was be manipulated. You could tell him what to do and he'd do it. He wouldn't even question it. He'd just do it. Just to hear that thank you when you received the finished product. That was his reasons. That's all he wanted. 2 clicks from the detective's guns could be heard. I could control him flawlessly. He's a lot like Takanori. Of course, none of you knew this, but I was the one who brought up the idea of the game. The idea of the entire operation. I just told the fellow what to do and he followed me without doubt. He knows nothing. Just like Chiro. A sound of a window opening could be heard, followed by the detectives. Don't move or we'll shoot! Let me tell you about a mechanic in the game, continued Susuke. His voice was more rushed, but it still held that snidiness. Consider it a hint, all right? If you walk around in grassy areas long enough, a Pokemon will appear, and you'll have the chance to go into battle with it. It's a necessary part of the game overall, you see. Step away from the window, we won't warn you again! At the start of the game, you have to walk into the grassy area before Oak appears, and you receive your first Pokemon. Understand me? Under normal circumstances, it was programmed that even though you're in a grassy area, no Pokemon will spawn. I made it different. I manipulated that Chiro, told him what to put in the program, gave him all the instructions on how to do it. And he did it flawlessly. It's rare. It can happen. Stepping into that grass. One can spawn. Susuke, we don't want to shoot! Shoot me? Asked Susuke, laughing at the same time. Shoot me! You're as dumb as Chiro was. Once he found out the truth, he had to end it. It was his fault after all. He shot himself because of it. If you are so determined to finish that case of yours, if you want to know, play the damn game for yourself. Roll the wheel and who knows, maybe you'll learn the secret for yourselves. A shot could be heard, loud enough to distort the audio. Sounds of screaming, murmuring could be heard. The table on the recorder was crashed, ear-shattering distortions, and silence. Then laughing. Susuke was laughing. And then the words. Come, follow me. Come, follow me. And then nothing. The recorder continued to record until the tape ran out. There was nothing else on it. The police arrived on the scene quickly, and to their horror they discovered Susuke and the 2 detectives dead. They'd all been shot, but not after struggling. The detectives had been shot multiple times, at least 10 each, before dying after being shot in between their eyes. Susuke himself had clearly died of 2 shots to the chest, straight through the heart. This game was causing a massacre. At least 100 children were dead. Nisuno, the unsuspecting friend, dead. Chiro manipulated the toy, dead. The 2 detectives, dead. And now, even the creator, the cause of all this atrocity, Susuke, dead. This game was stretching far over its original intentions. It was killing anyone and everyone who got involved. The lead detective had to put this case away. The man who committed the crime is dead, so there's no longer any reason to continue the case. All evidence, all cartridges, all the notes, all the letters, they were locked away, kept in the darkness where they belonged. There were talks about the entire thing, small conversations every now and then, but over the years, even these began to fade away. Eventually, the case was only a memory in the minds of those who experienced it firsthand. 10 years passed. February 27th, 2006 was the date. The lead detective, the man who locked away the original evidence 10 years previous, was reminded of the awful event that occurred. Although he was no longer in the force, he still had access to the files and was helped when he could. The reminder of the event caused him to look back, to open the sealed container that held all the evidence collected. He read through the letters and notes. He remembered the woman who had appeared to him on the street that one day and handed in that letter that led to the change of the entire case. He wondered who she was and where she had come from. Perhaps she was Chido's mother, or maybe Susuke's. It was far too late to pursue any of this now. Far too late. Sealing the container again, he saw a second one directly behind it. Pulling it out, he read the note on top of it. Evidence number 2104A. He opened it up and looked inside. Filling the container were exactly 104 Pokemon Red and Green cartridges, each one in perfect condition, untouched since the day they had last checked them 10 years ago. He reached in and pulled one out. Pokemon Red. He hadn't seen one in a long time. He didn't know what to thought next, but he reached in his desk and pulled out an old Game Boy. He received it a long time ago, but it still worked. It was his son's, but he had died a few years previous. His wife was gone too now. That was then, though. Popping in the cartridge in the back of the Game Boy, he turned on the system. The title screen. Then the option to continue or start a new game. Tanaka. That was the child's name. The one who played it first. He was probably dead now, along with all the others. He pressed new game and started a new game. It was normal. Average. He walked around, talked to his mother, went outside. Then he started walking towards the grass. In his head, he could still hear Susuke's words. Even though he was not there, even though he had never seen the man in his life, he could still see him, hear him. Come follow me. He was getting closer and closer, only a step or two away. Roll the wheel, and who knows, maybe you'll learn the secret for yourself. He entered the grass. The screen did nothing at first. Nothing at all. It just sat there, and so did the detective, completely frozen, as if time had just stopped for them. The screen went black, and lit up again. The iconic green background with black text appearing. The lead detective's weary eyes grew wide. He couldn't help but read what was out there in front of him. Come follow me. Come follow me. I miss you, Dad. I miss you, my husband. I miss you so much. Tears formed in his eyes, falling down his cheeks. Screens and screens of text appeared, and he rapidly clicked the A button to continue it. It was his wife and child. They were speaking to him, calling to him, crying with him. They wanted to see them. They loved him, and he loved them. I love you too, muttered the man in a hoarse, scratching voice. Come follow me. Become new again. We want to hold you and see you and be with you forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Don't stay away. You can see us too. We miss you. Come follow me. We love you. A black screen. The detective's eyes grew wide, his jaw dropping. The screen lit back up and Oak was leading him out of the grass. Come follow me, said Oak. No! Shouted the man, dropping the game onto the floor. He quickly fell forward, reaching for it, bringing the screen back to his face. Bring them back! Bring them back to me! The game continued on as usual, not responding to the detective at all. My wife! My child! Listen to me! Bring them back to me, I said! Voices. He heard voices. Hundreds of voices. He turned around from his seat, looking behind him, and standing in his small room were children. Many children. Some had no eyes. Some had rings around their throats, and some were burned all across their body. They were screaming, reaching towards him. Bring back my mummy! Bring back my daddy! Bring back my pet! They all screamed out, reaching for the game, their mouths agape with horror and pain. I don't want them to go away! Bring them back to me! Bring them back to me! No, shouted the detective. It's mine! My family is here! Don't you touch it! Horror was across his face. Come, follow me, said a voice. The lead detective looked over, and in the corner of his room, next to an old desk, was Susuke. He stood in the corner, tall, handsome, and clean. A smile was on his face, stretching across his face. Come follow me. The lead detective jumped up, stepping back, trying to force away the children crawling towards him, reaching out for the game held tightly within his hands. What's going on here? What's going on? Where is my family? Susuke smiled generously. I'll show you. I'll help you get away from them. You see? Just follow me. Susuke reached down and opened a drawer on the old desk. The lead detective, pushing through the crowd of children trying to get away, looked inside. Sitting there, covered with dust, was his old gun from when he was on the force. He had not used that gun in many years and had put it away, not wanting to remember the things he had to do with it. But right now, he didn't see it as something that caused pain or that killed. It was shining. It was light. It was something that could set him free. Just follow me, said Susuke, picking up the gun and putting it in the lead detective's hands. He formed his hand to hold the gun and brought it up to his temple. Just pull the trigger. And that's all. The lead detective turned around. The children were still crawling at him, grabbing his legs and pulling. They reached for the game. He turned back to Susuke and smiled. My family. I'll follow you. He pulled the trigger. Bang! His brain spread the wall as he fell to the ground. Dead. It was a few days before the body was discovered. It lay on the floor, blood everywhere. In one hand held an empty gun, and in the other was a classic Game Boy with Pokemon Red on the back. The battery had long died, and only an empty, black screen was left. This was the final murder that the remaining authorities would allow. The last detective who was ever a part of this case personally carried all 104 cartridges away and burned them all, making sure not a single one survived. They would taunt no more. However, ladies and gentlemen, this is not the end of the story. You see, the code was said to have survived, and was even passed on to other language versions of the games in North America, the United Kingdom, Australia, and so on. If you had an old Pokemon game, you could place the cartridge in the back of the classic Game Boy, turn on the system, and roll the wheel. Who knows? Maybe you'll learn the secret for yourself.